What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good weekend. It seems a lot of people are yet again talking about a Nintendo Switch 2 rumor, or leak, quote unquote. And this is pretty much old news to any Nintendo fan, and Nintendo YouTuber especially. They scurry the internet and scrape it for any tiny rumor or leak of the Nintendo Switch Pro, or 2, or XL, or Super Nintendo Switch. Everyone seems to be predicting what Nintendo has up their sleeves for the new Nintendo Switch 2. And lately, it's been getting a little out of hand to the point I'm starting to think, could these rumors actually be real? I think most, if not all of those predictions that some YouTubers like Beat'emups and Wolfden have gone over quite a few times seem to be valid. And their expectations for this juggernaut video game console to deliver on is a reasonable amount of requests to ask for. Whether it be backwards compatibility or 4K, I think Nintendo is in the perfect position to deliver on most of those predictions and wow fans yet again. I think it's completely possible. But what, you may ask, are my predictions for the Super Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch Pro? Well, I have a number of them, and I think they're pretty realistic considering how many years passed between the Nintendo Switch and this mysterious new console, possibly console hybrid, if Nintendo isn't stupid. Because that marketing and business strategy to bend and mold console and handhelds in one has effectively had a huge impression on the video game market and its fans alike. And as for hardware specs, here's what I got. I think the Nintendo Switch 2 will have a base chipset of an NVIDIA Tegra CPU that fully supports DLSS. But besides the Tegra chip, I think people are asking for way more in terms of graphical performance. And I believe Nintendo is going to finally deliver on those expectations. It's most likely going to have a built-in GPU with Ampere or RDNA 2 architecture, just to keep up with the other boys. And depending on how cost-effective it will be for Nintendo. Seeing how they made $8 billion on the Nintendo Switch console alone, I'm hoping they do RDNA 2 somehow. But it's most likely going to be NVIDIA based, which nowadays I don't trust NVIDIA as much as I used to. But if it's going to have DLSS properly, then why not just go for the NVIDIA GPU as well? And in terms of power resemblance, the GPU and CPU together in modern days like this for gaming should give us a gaming rig experience resembling an i5 or an i7 at least, with a GPU similar to the GTX 1060 or 1070 or an RX 580, depending on the model. Now, this is where my predictions get a little dicey. The reason I say the power should resemble a 1060 through a 1070 is because I think there should be two models to this new Nintendo Switch. And the base model will come with the standard 16 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, but depending if you get the standard Switch 2 or the XL, you can get up to 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM. And I feel like for a company like Nintendo, that's a more than fair trade-off. And the console hybrid, because of these specs, will be future-proofed for at least another 7 years. And as far as Nintendo goes with the gimmicky sort of hardware, they're most likely going to introduce the HD Rumble 2.0, which will be enhanced for Nintendo Switch 2's bigger-sized Joy-Cons, depending if you get the standard or XL. But I think the base model should have bigger Joy-Cons. Basically, the new Joy-Cons will have detachable grips, a D-pad, and bigger analog sticks for more comfortable use. And it will also include analog triggers. And there'll probably be a main staple that plays into HD Rumble 2, just like with Sony's DualSense adaptive triggers or Xbox One's trigger vibrations. And I think the new standard screen for Nintendo's handhelds should be an OLED 7-inch. The new Switch's display will include a resolution of 1080p, without bezels of course, like the OLED model. And before we get into the dock, I'm going to switch over to my software predictions. Sorting folders and files will be easier and a standard feature from the get-go. Bluetooth support will be available day one, of course. If not, we riot. Cloud saves will be a main feature and will carry over to newer ports or the same game to your Nintendo Switch 2. And in terms of backwards compatibility, cartridges just won't be backwards compatible. Let's just face that right now. They most likely will only make digital games backwards compatible, since they're stating so hard that your Nintendo account will carry over to future systems, but not the cartridges. So most likely the cartridges will just end up becoming collector's items, like every other Nintendo bit of merchandise. But in terms of how they carry over, older digital Nintendo Switch games will receive eventual Nintendo Switch 2 support, with the next-gen update treatment to improve frame rates and resolution for portable and docked use. Games like Super Mario Odyssey will be upscaled to 1080p and 4K to re-experience your favorite Nintendo Switch classics, once again on the go or at home. Big titles like Resident Evil 4 Remake will be native on the console, console. And maybe, possibly, some ports that were fully reworked like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, if owned digitally, will grant the player a discount of some kind for the new Nintendo Switch 2 version. And the reason I say that is because I don't think you can simply just upscale Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal or ports that have been optimized as much as they have. It's most likely going to require a lot more optimization or just a brand new port, just to fully take advantage and to have the full game portable just like the Steam Deck. And popular titles like Tears of the Kingdom will be fully backwards compatible with the Nintendo Switch 2. And in the coming months, after Tears of the Kingdom drops, Nintendo is most likely going to announce that Tears of the Kingdom will have a Nintendo Switch 2 version, but only after they get enough sales with the base Nintendo Switch port. So I'd say it's going to be 6 months minimum. And if Nintendo just ignores backwards compatibility altogether, I think the lack of backwards compatible games with the new Switch will ultimately hurt the console's sales in the long run. Having thousands of games ready for the console day one with day one upgrades to games like Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe will surprise and delight players, as Nintendo described. And finally, let's get to the actual game changer for the Nintendo Switch 2. And yes, specs alone for the handheld will not be game changer enough, because it is Nintendo and they tend to change up the game, no pun intended, every time they come out with a new console. I believe this console is also going to have something brand new, and that is the dock. This dock will have a built-in processor or GPU to help the Switch 2 display games in 4K and up to 120 FPS. And the power will most likely resemble a GTX 1070 to an RTX 2070 with that added dock power. And the dock will also most likely have a built-in charging brick to simplify setup, along with 3 to 4 USB 3.1 ports, and an HDMI or Lightning cable to HDMI, as well as an Ethernet cable. I think using any option faster than an HDMI is a better choice, because that's what I use for my gaming laptops and desktops. But if they go with a HDMI 2.1, that'll be fine. And the dock is what I think Nintendo meant by fans being surprised, because a lot of people ask for a dock with some kind of processor inside or software that helps to upscale the games and improve performance. But let's be honest, we didn't think Nintendo would actually do that because it just seemed too complicated. But don't doubt Nintendo, they really do have wizards working at their labs. And I'm sure they could figure out a way to make the dock further improve the Nintendo Switch 2's performance tenfold compared to the original Nintendo Switch, because that is the only thing worth upgrading. And if they spend 7 years on the current Nintendo Switch, then that is a whole lot of time to advance their options. The Nintendo Switch has been one of the most successful handhelds or consoles for Nintendo Switch since the Wii and the 3DS. And what they do with that profit is up to them. But I'm willing to bet Nintendo fans that have high hopes for the upcoming Switch Pro will be pleasantly surprised how good of a place Nintendo is in to deliver on those expectations. And we will see exactly what Nintendo has planned in the coming months after Tears of the Kingdom drops. Hopefully. And let's hope it's everything we wanted since the 3rd or 4th year of the Switch. Fans have been asking for this over and over again, and Nintendo has just ignored everybody's pleas and cries and wishes and pipe dreams. But recently, they said words about it in reply to these leaks and rumors. If Nintendo even mumbles about something, that means something is coming soon, and they don't want us to get too used to the idea of moving on from the Nintendo Switch, but they want us to start to wonder. And I think wondering about the future now with Nintendo Switch is a good thing. Now is the time to get your hopes high for the Nintendo Switch 2. All those other times were not the time, especially when the OLED Switch came out. That was kind of a joke, in my opinion. I bought one just to rekindle whatever I felt in the first 3 years of owning a Nintendo Switch, and I just couldn't. I had to move on. I wanted more, like a lot of other people, so I ended up buying a Steam Deck, and I'm completely content with that. I've been playing new games like the Resident Evil 4 Remake demo, and I've been having an absolute blast, as I should have with the Nintendo Switch 2, but we can't fully rely on one company to deliver on everything we want. We have to sometimes branch out to different platforms to get different experiences, and I think that's what Nintendo is talking about when they mention that they are not competitors with PlayStation or Xbox, because they're working with them. They want you to play those other consoles. They're not coming out with the Switch 2 because they knew they would obliterate the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 if they had something even remotely close in terms of performance. People would have just gone to the Nintendo Switch. So they're holding off. You have to use your power sparingly, and Nintendo has been doing that. If they came out with the Nintendo Switch 2, I wouldn't have bought a Steam Deck. all of these other companies wouldn't have gotten any kind of spotlight. Just like Uncle Ben says, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think Nintendo has been very responsible in the last 6 years. Some people are losing their patience, and I think that's what they want. They want you to branch off and get other consoles, experience other things. The thing about Nintendo YouTubers and Nintendo gamers is that they kind of rely too much on Nintendo. And I understand it sort of feels like a special relationship you have with this company or console, but they are at the end of the day a business, and watching other businesses grow is sometimes beneficial for that business as well. And if you say games like Call of Duty releasing first on the Xbox Series X is going to hurt Nintendo Switch 2's chances of selling that Call of Duty title, my response would be, how many Call of Duties do you think Activision has left? I think the answer is around infinite. So I really don't think Nintendo needs to worry about running out of Call of Duty titles. As long as they can support future Call of Duties, I think they'll be just fine. And I'm sort of a completionist when it comes to collections, so I bet when people get Call of Duty Black Ops 5 or something like that on the Nintendo Switch 2, they're also going to want the other games in the collection just to complete that collection, just like I do with every console. That's just the territory that comes with being a gamer. But that'll do it for my predictions. Let me know what you guys think the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be like. What are your predictions? I want to hear everything. Make your comments as long as you want. If you don't think there's going to be a Nintendo Switch 2, tell me about that as well. Why do you think Nintendo Switch is going to look away from a potential sequel? I really don't believe people like that are out there, but if they are, welcome to my channel, and I hope you had a good stay. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one. Later.